Hello everyone, Ashkanda here, and today on the book club we're gonna talk about the book of Mario Puzo called Sicilian. So Mario Puzo, you may have heard one of his famous novels called The Godfather, and this is exactly the same novel that was base for the famous classic film made by Francis Ford Coppola, I believe. Was it him? Or was it? No, it was Martin Scorsese. Francis Ford Coppola called The Godfather. And we all like to watch after the Corleone family. And I also definitely enjoyed the novel. It was a good novel. Unfortunately, I haven't yet watched the film, and I hope to do it sometime. So Sicilian is the part of the same Godfather universe. We all remember Michael Corleone at some point of a time was sent by his father to Sicily in order to hide from police after he killed the policeman, I believe. Yeah, so he was sent there for a few years just to wait until in New York everything is gonna settle down. So when the Michael needed to leave, his father reached out to him saying, "Hey, please bring the friend of mine, Salvatore Giuliano, to America as well." Michael was happy to do so because, of course, it was a request from his father, why not? And he also heard a lot of good things about Salvatore Giuliano. He was already a legendary person in the whole island of Sicily. Don Croce Malo was given for Michael as the person to whom referred to in order to get a hold of Salvatore or Turi Giuliano, and after contacting him, they could together go back to the New York and United States. So Michael definitely followed the past, don't really think of anything bad, and he spoke with Don Malo, and he found that not everything is going well between him and Turi Giuliano. After talking with Don, he together with Stefano Andolini went further to meet the parents of Salvatore and his best friend and the main comrade, Aspano Pisciotta, who was also his cousin. So together they met with the parents, who also didn't know that where the Turi is, but they wanted to first talk to Michael to understand that everything is gonna be alright, and he actually gonna take care of their son. First they agreed that not Salvatore would go to the America, but his wife, who is also pregnant. And after seeing that she's okay and doing alright, well, after reaching the America, they will understand that Turi can leave for US as well. And while discussing the plan, they found out that there is the secret testament. Basically, Salvatore made a testament which should be published in case of his death, and he was feeling that Don Croce and his other potential friends, and especially the Rome government, may not want him dead while the testament is still somewhere in place. As a gift from mother of Salvatore Giuliano, Michael received a small statue of Black Madonna statue. And after this, the story takes us to, I think, almost 10 years before the events presented in this small introduction, which told us the whole story of how Salvatore Giuliano, from a teenager with a great moral code of conduct, turned outlaw. What happened is basically they were doing some contraband to sell on the black market, as after the Second World War ended and the American army liberated Sicily. They were not really good times for Sicilian people, and unfortunately a lot of things were being owned by the mafia, who in the Mussolini times lost their power, and now Don Croce, who is the main face of the mafia on the whole island, was owning all the supplies pretty much, and the only way for farmers to actually afford food was to go to the black market. That is why, together with Carabinieri, Don Croce, and Mafia, they were all trying to take care of the black market. That is why part of what people needed to do, they needed to make those not really legal things. And Salvatore, together with Aspano Pisciotto, his cousin, they went to another small town to bring some stuff there, to get some food, and also as part of the deal they needed to bring a huge piece of cheese to black market. While they were walking back already, Carabinieri found them, and after looking through what they were having with them, they found that the guys were having some contraband, and Carabinieri started to confront them, and basically the guys tried to save themselves by leaving, and Carabinieri officer wasn't happy about it, so he took his rifle and shot Salvatore, who, by the chance of being a really well-sought person, had a revolver hidden, and he shot back, and unfortunately for the Carabinieri officer, he shot so well, so he killed him straight away, while the shot from the rifle still severely injured Salvatore, who already saw that he was dying, but he didn't want to die without avenging himself. So there's been a lot of mess going on, and two other Carabinieri, they were so afraid, and they started to also shoot back, but then Aspano saved his friend, and after this they realized that now the only way for them to survive is to go to the mountains and became outlaws, and in this sense they started to fight against the unlawful police who was taking care not of the people of Sicily, but of mafia and corrupted government. Giuliano already made a big name for himself on the whole island, and after the years and months of helping and making different stunts, like they freed up all the prisoners in their own village, they started to grow their squad further and further, they really became a big power, and they, predominantly him, Turi Giuliano, became a household name in the whole Sicily, and the half of the Sicily really were fond of him. So the western part was Palermo and following towns and countries. And not all people actually liked it. And Don Croce was quite sentimental at first, because his son wasn't really able to become a Don after this, and he saw the prominent growth of Salvatore Giuliano in the way of his outlaw, and he thought that it would be great if he would turn him in and he will become a part of the mafia. But Turi didn't really want to reign under the Don Croce, and he thought that mafia is also not good, so he was both against mafia but still more on the neutral side, and against the police, and predominantly police and the government. So they were having this fight going on for a long of time, and there were a lot of missions and different things going on which were really interesting to read about. I would rather move to one of the main events that happened between Salvatore, Don Croce, and the government in Rome, and mainly Minister of Justice. They were seeing that on the newest elections the Communist Party is going to win on Sicily. And neither of those three really liked that, because communists were sort of against all of them. That is why, in order to keep their dominance, they asked Salvatore to take care of that. So the idea was that by raiding the strikes or meetings that communists would have on the island, they would fear the people, and at the same time the Christian Democratic Party, who were the power of Rome and the power of Mafia, and they were interested in them reigning the Sicily, they would do some charitable events, so people would actually start to like them. And the trick with growing affinity didn't work out, so one of the last resorts the Don Crocimalo suggested Turi to do was to shoot above the heads of demonstrants on the 1st of May in the small tunnel between two villages where people were ultra-communistic in this sort of sense. And unfortunately, there was a traitor in Salvatore's squad who actually also started working with Don Crocimalo behind Giuliano's back, and he actually killed a bunch of people and injured also many of those with him while they were all shooting from the machine guns. You can imagine how bloodthirsty they were, and the whole idea initially was just to scare them out. So after this, of course, it helped a bit, and people were scared. That's why they also didn't really want to vote for communists because of this. And after this betrayal, Turi first got rid of the traitor, who was the Passatempo, one of his main officers of his escadron. And after this, he declared the war against Mafia. So first, he killed all Mafia main bosses, and after this, he was going after Don Crocimalo. That is why Michael was right about feeling something fishy between Crocimalo helping out Turi Giuliano to leave Sicily. There wasn't really a way for him to leave. So Turi, he wasn't really believing anyone besides his right hand, Aspano Pisciotto, his cousin, the guy with whom he grew all his life, and they were both part of together. They were both so different, so they were ideal combination of cunning fox and mighty bear with a mind of clever, wise owl, something like this, if you put it in allegoric way. So Michael found that the testimonial was inside of Black Madonna, so first him and Peter Clemenza sent it to the United States, and the next day, together with Aspano Pisciotto, they agreed that he will bring Turi Giuliano to them so they can finally leave for New York. So when they left to pick up Salvatore, in the exact town where they should have met, they found out that Turi was murdered this morning. And as it then turned out to be, his best friend, his closest friend, Aspano Pisciotto, killed him. Just because he started to work together with Don Crocimalo and thought that if he would talk to him, he will leave Turi alone. Unfortunately, this is pretty much where the story ends. Michael Corleone leaves for the United States, while Aspano Pisciotto is being put to prison. But Hector Adonis, who was also person who would be sharing information and sharing messages between Turi Giuliano, his godson, and Don Crocimalo. He would avenge Turi and poison Aspano Pisciota, who was so sure he gonna have his hands clean after the betrayal he did. And the whole story ends with Hector Adonis and Don Crocimalo both visiting the graveyard and paying their tribute to Salvatore Giuliano and his friends. I really like this whole story. You know, I basically told you the whole plot, and I was so excited by just reading this whole romanticized outlaw life that was presented. And Salvatore Giuliano, it's so easy to grow the affinity towards such a character because, you know, he was this classic anti-hero. He was the guy who was having his own moral standards and trying to do good things, probably by not even choosing the right methods, but his moral compass was just built in such a way that if there were bad people hurting his people, hurting innocent people, he wouldn't think of any other way and would terminate them just in order to bring peace to his own land, to his country. And he was even trying to root for Sicily's independence, something that the Sicilian separatists were considering for some time, at least, especially in the Second World War times. So you know that is why he became a household name and such a legend of the island that there is no surprise that people really liked him, and especially the things he did. You know, he was really, as a lot of people describe him, he was the Robin Hood of the 20th century. He was robbing not just mainly, but he was robbing only the wealthy people. Like, there was the prince, there was a count, there was a duke, and he was robbing from them. And then the idea was that the amount of money, the amount of goods that they would rob from them, they would split 50-50, and 50 basically goes to the squad, and the other half will be distributed among the people of Sicily, and mainly first initially was their main hometown Montelepre, and of course for other people as well. And as it turned out, like, the Salvatore, he was even more humble, and he was giving even his share mainly to people and mainly to his family, because he also had parents and he had loved ones, so that is why he was the one providing all the possible goods for them. And especially I think, besides just him having this a bit skewed towards medieval-ish justice, you know, I know that, like, our current justice system doesn't, we don't have like capital punishment, right? So people would not be killed for their deeds. This is why maybe not all the methods that they were doing are acceptable, especially they were just radically redistributing the wealth taken from the wealthy people and giving to the poor. But probably that was just the only way in Sicily to make it work, because the government didn't seem to care much about the people, and mafia either. Mafia is caring only about themselves. That is why I still felt a lot of respect towards Salvatore Giuliano, and especially the way he was portrayed in the book. Maybe in real life, because there was actual person in real life. Maybe in real life he wasn't that cool as Mario Puzo described him, but I think my utmost respect was going to him after the fact, when he stuck in those mountains with his people surrounding him, and one of the main things he asked his godfather Hector Adonis, who is a professor at Palermo University, to bring him a lot of books about tactics, about biology, about pretty much anything. So Salvatore wasn't just your basic outlaw who was just following his instincts and how the things to do. He was really the person who knew the tactic and strategy of the best generals of the times, and or I mean at least the best books that were available then. This is why the Italian regular army couldn't do much with him, and at the end of the day, why he actually needed to leave was the fact that he, having only 300 people, needed to face the special Italian army of 2,000, and he was yet still able to win some of the battles, but it was almost impossible to win this war, unfortunately. That is why it's such an entertaining story, and I'm sure that anybody who likes adventures, who likes crime to a certain extent, and to just, feel fond of stories maybe from The Godfather, you guys will definitely like this book. There is not much overlap with the story from The Godfather, so if you haven't read the novel that actually made Mario Puzo famous, you're not really missing out. It's not as if it's a second part. It's technically a part that should be somewhere in between the main novel. So, the only things you may want to have more context would be the Corleone family that was mentioned on 50 pages out of 400 in the whole book, but it's not as if you would miss anything. You'll just see, if you would have read the initial novel, or if you watch the film, you would just recognize the familiar names. So that's about it. So yeah, this is my recommendation on Mario Puzo's Sicilian. I hope you guys, maybe some of you already read this novel. I'm really curious for you to hear your feedback, or maybe if you watched or read The Godfather, you would also have something to share down in the comments. Thank you very much, guys, and I'll see you next time in the book club.